Hi all. Everything in my video is pulled from the public domain, and I am using them under the Fair Use, Fair Dealings guidelines. Everything I say is my own opinion. You should look into this information for yourselves, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. Good morning, everybody. First off, I'd like to say thank you to Royally Blunt on Twitter for the above photo. I couldn't help it. It was just so pretty. We're going to continue to do here what we've been doing for almost 2 years now. We're going to take the news, we're going to report the news, and we're going to discuss the news and what do we think of it. Obviously, from my disclaimer, everything that you're looking at is public realm information. It's all about what's in the news. So let's just jump right in and get there with both feet, shall we? Let's go. I want to start off by saying a big thank you to my follower. I don't give out names at this point anymore unless you specifically tell me I can. And she asked about my coffee fund, and I told her the coffee fund is essentially gone. There's no way to link it on Rumble that I've been able to find out. And so she sent me an Amazon gift card instead and told me to buy myself something frivolous. How fabulous is that? Thank you so much. All right, moving on. I want you guys to know that I actually figured out how to chat with somebody from YouTube. You guys should know I'm really not that tech savvy. But anyway, I chatted with somebody at YouTube and they said that there was no appeal on file for my case. And I was like, what? I sent in 2 appeals. So I asked them to hold while I appealed again to make sure that it went through. Now, I want you to notice the time at the top as to what time I sent the email. And once again, I was referred to the terms of service. And I had this long conversation with this person, and I pointed out that I had not broken one rule on those terms of service. And one of the services that I think they kept trying to point out to me was the one where it says if you continue to maliciously insult somebody over and over. But by their own rules, maliciously insult means I called them bad words like the N-word and things like that, none of which I ever did, so I didn't break the rules. But anyway, look at the timestamp on the top, 8:35 p.m. last night. I got a response at essentially 5:30 this morning. So not even 12 hours. Now, here's the weird thing. My account was not suspended. My account was terminated. There's a vast difference in the wording. And I said in my appeal, I should not have been terminated. This just shows you how much attention they paid to my appeal. It says we're going to let the suspension remain. And then they made it where I was unable to ask any more questions, like, could you please explain to me what I did wrong? Instead, they just keep referring me to the terms of service and that's because I didn't do anything wrong. They can't defend their position. So for those of you who are going on about, they've got to give it back, it's not coming back, guys. Time to move on. But that just shows you how much attention they actually gave to my appeal. It didn't go through internal, because if it went through internal, there's nobody in internal at midnight. You know what I'm saying? This was just some person who looked at it and went, nah, I'm not going to let it go. All right, time to move on, guys. Next story. This came up while I was offline, but I was just like, wow, is there anything that these two can't do? Come to find out that William and Catherine are both scuba certified to go down 100 feet. I wonder how they were able to get certified without people knowing it. Because there's a lot of classes and a lot of stuff you have to do. Anyway, almost immediately, people started putting up posts on Twitter, of course, and they showed what they were using while they were underwater and if you wanted to buy the same equipment. But then the photos came out. Yeah, holy moly. There they are swimming in Belize, and even worse, they were swimming with sharks. Okay, I wouldn't do that, but okay, they're not afraid. They went down and swam with the sharks. Good for them. I just think there's nothing they can't do. All right, moving on. Well, this blind item came up and I went, what? Because it was essentially talking about me. It's saying that the PR firm Bot Farm, which we know that Sunshine Sachs, and we know who the Bot Farm is sending complaints nonstop to YouTube, and that's why our channels are being shut down. I'd like to think that YouTube wouldn't do that without investigating the complaints. You know what I mean? It would be interesting. But yeah, that looks like that's what they're doing. I completely believe it. But a lot of people on YouTube who are now making money for YouTube are coming on over to Rumble. Maybe when enough people move over, then they'll stop what they're doing. All right, moving on. Another story that came out while I was offline was about the lawsuit that Harry lodged. And apparently he's saying that the tabloids hurt his feelings. That's what I'm getting from it. Looks like the judge is not happy. He said that they're submitting documents not relevant to the case, that they're making things public after they were told not to. That's what I got from what I read. But I got to be honest, when I read legal documents, my brain kind of goes sideways a little bit. So I do know that the judge was upset with the attorney, asked for an apology. Yeah, I don't think this case is going to go well for them. As best as I can tell, what happened was a version of the judgment was shared with lawyers before it was formally handed down. And a copy of that was given to a partner at the law firm that represents Harry, but the person is not a lawyer, so he's not supposed to get a copy. And then apparently he made it public. So the judge says to Harry's attorney, there was a breach of the embargo. The draft judgment should not have been given to this person, and it's unacceptable that you're here without an apology. And the attorney says back to the judge, I don't believe there was a breach. And the judge says, well, let me disabuse you of that notion. There's been a breach. So she immediately took full responsibility, prompting the judge to say, are you going to apologize? And she goes, well, with benefit of hindsight, I should have thought more carefully before the emails were sent out, about whose status and etc. And I should have contacted the court, etc. And the judge says, listen, it's not for me to require you to apologize. It should be as a matter for you, for your professional conscience. And if you're not going to, there's nothing I can propose to do about it. Yeah. At that point, she said, okay, I'm very sorry for the fact I didn't think fully before the emails were sent and I didn't contact the court sooner. And finally, the judge says, you're not doing any good. Let's just move on here. Wow. As far as I can tell, the gentleman who got the decision released parts of it to the media after the judge had said that certain parts of it were not to be released to the media. Essentially, he's not having this case tried in the media. I like this judge already. And I think that's the right thing. If he's worried about security, if Harry's worried about security, you don't want this information in the media. Apparently, the judge rejected a lot of the paperwork they turned in, saying it was completely irrelevant. But I really love that he told them that the courts do not exist to put irrelevant information out into the public realm. In other words, this is not going to be fought in the media, so stop it. I'm going to need to keep an eye on this case. All right, moving forward. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. Dr. Shola is, I guess that's how you say her name. She's in the news, and she's demanding, is it called reparations for slave ownership from the, I guess that would be the 1800s, 1700s, I think. Now, I didn't know this, but in 1833, Britain used 40% of its national budget to buy freedom for all slaves. And they borrowed so much money, it wasn't paid off until 2015. So one of my followers sent me this email that you see above. I'm not going to name her because she didn't say I could. But she said she was very proud of the fact that her taxes went to help pay off that debt. There comes a point where you have to say, okay, enough. If you don't put the past behind you, you're never going to move forward. At least that's the way I look at it. All right, let's move on to the next story. All right, this is going to be our big story for today. And thank you to this Twitter user who put this up for me. Apparently, Spotify put out an announcement that Megan is going to do a Spotify podcast by herself. So they've dropped Harry from the whole thing. And maybe they think she'll do better on her own. And it was pointed out how many times they put Duchess of Sussex in the title. That's a lot of times. Okay, but they're saying it's going to be launched over the summer, of course, during the Platinum Jubilee or maybe on her daughter's birthday, who knows. So according to Spotify, it's going to be called Archetypes, and it's all about the labels that hold women back. So we're going to stop right there for a minute. And do you guys know who this is? I don't even know if I can say his name right. Tom Leykis. And apparently he's a big talk show personality person. Now, don't feel bad if you don't know who he is, because I'd never heard of the man. But apparently a clip of one of his podcasts was used in the introduction of Meghan Markle's podcast. Now, again, I don't know this guy, but it's being suggested that he is a big litigator. And almost immediately, there you go. He's asking who gave permission to use my voice in her promo. Looks like somebody suggested that it was part of the fair use, fair dealings, which apparently it is not. This could get ugly. And people on Twitter are very vocal, especially the one in the middle there. You would think that someone who recently was part of a copyright lawsuit would be more respectful of other people's work. My Insolence at the top pointed out that Meghan sued the Mail on Sunday for copyright infringement, but then turned around and stole somebody's voice. Spot on. I wonder how that's going to go. So in the meantime, they're putting out details on the podcast, like I said, and it's part of her and Harry's multi-year partnership with Spotify. Now, we know that they signed in with Spotify years and years ago. It's been like 2 years, and they've only done one podcast that did not do well. Now, we all know that Meghan has been caught flat out plagiarizing and copying. Her 40 by 40 idea came from Nelson Mandela. She gives speeches where she quotes famous people and she doesn't give them credit. And now she's got this thing through Archewell called Archetype, and people are immediately accusing her of copying the idea from another person's work. So here's what the front of the book looks like. Very interesting. And in the book, it talks about the different archetypes and how they affect us, right? And with that, again, people on Twitter, very vocal. Sally at the bottom pointed out that we don't need advice from a woman who vilifies men and shrieks about female victimhood after she used men to get where she is. And she's trying to shut down people who don't agree with her. And at the top, and I hope I'm saying this right, Aram Rossi, a very excellent spot on comment. Then women don't need Meghan to speak for them or want her advice when she has only advanced through the connection she achieved through marriage, which is absolutely right. If Meghan wasn't married to Harry, would any of this be going on? Very doubtful. And Meghan said that she's going to have conversations with women who know all too well how these typecasts shape our narrative. It almost sounds like another victim pity party to me. That's my impression. Oh, how we even got here in the first place, and you know, how we can make it better for, again, how we're being held back in some fashion. But yeah, it's investigating the labels that hold women back. So yeah, it's more of the whole victim thing. And from some of the comments, like you can see above, I'm not the only person who feels that way. There are numerous comments on Twitter about, again, the whole victimology narrative. Now, of course, the news is coming out that, when was the last time you ever really heard a man describing women as less intelligent? That would have been generations ago. And while Meghan would have you think that it happens every day, it doesn't. It just doesn't. It points out that it's very bewildering that one of the most privileged women in the world is digging so deep to provide a pit for women. It's a pity fest, for women, and also to vilify men in the process. The fact of the matter is, women are just not treated that way anymore. The world is full of entrepreneurial females, political leaders, business women, and the truth is, Meghan's good fortune earned her the place in the world through marriage. That's how she got where she is. The article says that she's playing into the cult of female victimhood, which is unappealing and outdated. And people noticed that this was announced in the middle of the Caribbean tour, once again, trying to steal the spotlight back. This is their usual behavior. Now, I want to read you something that's at the end of the article because it's just so spot on. It says, today, Harry is just a miserable whiner who plays second fiddle to his wife. He's the only member of the royal family who will not be attending Prince Philip's memorial service next week because he's too busy. He's too scared to fly to Britain, too busy on the phone to his London lawyers contesting his latest grievance, too dim to realize he's the prince that Britain has forgotten, but they will never forgive. Spot on. So the podcast put out a little snippet so everybody could hear her talking about what this was going to be. And the first thing I noticed in the trailer, and I know I'm not going to play it for you on here, but the first thing I noticed in the trailer is that her voice had dropped dramatically. It's several octaves lower, and she, for once, doesn't call herself the Duchess of Sussex. She says, "I'm Meghan." And her voice is very low. And that immediately made me think of somebody else. Do you remember this girl, Elizabeth Holmes? She was the world's youngest self-made billionaire. And when she redid herself, she literally remade herself. And they did a whole special on her recently, and they said she dropped her voice like multiple octaves, and she started wearing a black turtleneck all the time like Steve Jobs, and she like reinvented herself. Yeah, that's what it made me think of. For those who also don't know it, she was also a chronic liar who was caught doing all kinds of things, and now she's going to jail for fraud. Don't misunderstand. I'm not saying that Meghan did anything fraudulent. My point is she keeps reinventing herself, which is what Elizabeth Holmes did. All right, going back to the original topic. So we know that Spotify took control of this, and they're the ones who are probably reaching out and getting people to come in. But do you guys think that Meghan came up with this idea, or do you think this was Spotify's idea? Because this sounds like something Meghan would come up with on her own. This sounds like something she'd be interested in. I wonder if she pitched it and Spotify said okay. But yeah, so I don't know who's doing what. Here's my thought. I'm not listening. I'm not going to listen. But I'm sure the first one, a lot of people might tune into the first one just out of curiosity, but I'll be interested to see if she could sustain this. Because if this one fails, then that might be the end of the Spotify deal. Now, at the same time, it's being reported in the news that her announcement is not going down well with her fans, that they're saying it's a snooze fest. And they've been left underwhelmed by the announcement, saying that it is, quote, unoriginal. Interesting. People have said, listen, this has been done before. There's nothing new here. And academics get paid a fraction of what Meghan Markle does, you know, and apparently it's being quoted in the magazine that another rudely said, "Please just kill me now." So as I said before, it'll be interesting to see if they can maintain this. This is, whether I like her or not, this is a topic that just does not interest me at all. All right, this is the very last bit that I saw online on the news about this. They're saying that she's getting $18 million for this one Spotify podcast that's coming up in the summer. I have an issue believing that because they've already apparently been paid some money for the first podcast that they did 2 years ago, which did not do well. I don't believe that Spotify is fronting them millions more for another podcast that may not go well. So I don't think that this article is correct. That's my opinion. So that was, once again, a lot of information, just like we used to do. Lots and lots of information. And I want your comments. What do you guys think happened or is going to happen with the attorney and the judge in the UK? What do you guys think about the podcast? And what do you guys think about what YouTube said about my channel, that in the middle of the night, some internal investigation was done, supposedly? Yeah, I don't think so. So leave those comments because I'm still reading them and I still love to see them. Don't forget you can follow me on Twitter. You can follow me on Getter. You can email me. And as always, you guys, have a great day.